Hello, everyone. This is the Daily Fix Fantasy and Frames DFS show with the three smartest guys in the world. Oh, wait a minute. That's just my opinion. But a lot of people are saying, I'm just saying, people are saying it. I am Keith Fleming. I'm joined by Kevin. I'm rooting for the New York Yankees and half watching it while we do this show. Tompkins, I respect it. And
I'll allow it.
And my boy, Joe Dubrain. Mats, what is going on, gentlemen?
Yankees are currently on right now on the West Coast. It is the sun setting, actually, a beautiful shot of Chavez Ravine. But look, it's nice to be post the Puka Nacua apocalypse that was social media.
Why didn't I listen to you? Why didn't I listen to you, Kevin?
It really is nice to be on the right side of history with that. I did express my thoughts in a very lengthy Twitter post today, which some people got. Some people definitely did not get the thesis of the play. But
what? There's dumb people on Twitter? Are you serious?
I mean, I didn't believe it either, but here we are. Look, the Rams were 2-4. Why do you think they're going to go play Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua? Just save their damn season. What sense would it make to play Puka Nacua like 10 snaps? Like 0.
Right.
Yeah, he played.
Give me a call next time, Kevin. I know you sent a text, but next time call me and go, Keith, I know how you are. You overthink things. Ask your friend, take the dude off IR, put him in your lineup. Did I do that? No, I didn't. So, and if Johan Jennings doesn't play, I'm officially the dumbest person in the world. So, I know it's not good, Kevin.
You better get ready to learn KJ Osborne, brother.
But this is why I play DFS people. Like, this is, I tell people, like, I hate season long, man. It's so frustrating. There's just so many things. Just give me, a salary and I'll put together a lineup all day. Joe, how are you doing, buddy? What's going on?
I mean, I'm not thrilled about this World Series between two of my most hated teams in baseball, but also I just don't care that much about baseball unless the Twins or the D-backs are in it. So I'm excited to see Ohtani. Hope he does well. Hope Judge.
Kev says that's fake
I hope
news.
The Stars do well. It's a good series. That's what I'm rooting for. And then they both lose somehow. That's the dream.
So what you're saying is there are not good people on both sides?
Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah, I actually think I dislike the fans of both teams more than the teams themselves at this point. Even though I actually know a number of people who are fans of these teams, but hey, if you're a Dodgers or especially a Yankees fan, you deserve to be called out for shit. So,
well, I mean, there is one on the stream currently. So,
whoa.
Well, what is your Yankees fandom history? That's what I always have to know about Yankees fans.
I was born in upstate New York and lived there for 35 years of my life.
You get the pass.
AK, go fuck yourself, Joe. Is what he's saying.
And that's all the people I know born in Arizona who are like, I'm a Yankees fan. I'm like, so you were born in the 90s.
You're right. You spent your winter. You spent from December to February here. Like, okay.
Do you think Derek Jeter is the greatest Yankee of all time? That's pretty much all you have to ask him. Because if the answer is yes,
that is the perfect question.
Yeah, you don't know Yankees. No disrespect to Derek Jeter, but it's like, I mean, come on, dude. Like that of all franchise, my dad swears it's Mickey Mantle. There's Lou Gehrig, baby. I mean, there's so many.
My dad's favorite player was Reggie Jackson. That was the era.
3 home runs in a game. Pretty hard to argue that, World Series. So, Was that not versus the Dodgers? Who was that against?
I don't think he got any. I'm trying to think of. Now I got to look it up because
the only reason I say that is my wife actually, and I'm always so proud of her when she does stuff like that. She goes, "Isn't this a really
78 was against the Dodgers?" I do believe.
I knew it. So an article she said it was 81, and then like in the 40s, I think was the last.
81 was the last one was against the Dodgers for sure.
But there was one with Reggie. I thought that I was like, man, I'm getting older and I'm losing it a little bit, but I swear I remember
77 and 78 were against the Dodgers. Yes.
Joe, I want to know what you said, but you were muted, buddy. I didn't hear it. I saw your lips moving, but I can't make out the words. It's like, what is it, Billy Madison?
Audio issues. But I said back in the late 40s, early 50s, a very common matchup back when it was the Brooklyn Dodgers. I think it was like Jackie Robinson, Yogi Berra faced off in like 6 World Series or something crazy like that.
Man. And I unfortunately for Jackie Robinson, considering how many rings Yogi's got, he won most of those. So we're not here to talk about the Yankees and the Dodgers, although we can. That's what the people want. We're here to talk Week 8. Let's start here, guys, because we were having this discussion offline, and we'll get into the positions and everything later. Tua is coming back.
Mm-hmm.
This is about when was the last time Tyreek Hill was 7K? Does anybody remember like when he was priced that low? And then, oh, by the way, the QB's coming back that he scored 25 points or more in 10 of his last 18 regular season games with.
What were his salaries in 2016? That's what I know.
That might be it, honestly.
I need that data site. For a nerd like me, I want to be able to go back and look every week from the beginning of time what people's price on DK to see like how much somebody's improved over the years. Somebody's a lot smarter than me. Go do that. Get that done and send me the link. I mean, I'm serious. Like, are you guys all in? Because I keep pivoting more and more, especially in cash, where I got to check the ownership for MME, but in cash, it's hard. A-Chain and Hill at like 13-2 for both of them. Like, that seems insanely cheap for what their potential has been when they play with Tua when he's healthy.
I mean, is that a potential 70 points for that kind of salary? Like,
could be
that you don't see that. So you could potentially, I mean, I think A-Chan deserves to be in. He's going to be in every lineup. I mean, he almost has to be at that price with knowing what we know. And what was the points per game that you cited?
Like 26.8, I believe, is what it is per game. And only one of them he didn't score. It's small sample, 6 games, but only one of them he didn't score 23 points or more. The only reason it's not higher is there's a 13 in there. And that's it. Like, other than that, like that's what he had, the 50-pointer, you know, that game where it was like every time he touched it, I think he had a 40-yard touchdown or something stupid. Is there any interest in other guys? Because let's just finish up that. Then there's 2 other things I want to touch on. Then we'll get into the actual plays. I mean, like Waddle, does that intrigue you? Is Jonnu Smith dead now after this, you know, heater he was on? What do you guys think?
I mean, I definitely increased interest in Waddle because I mean, I think Tyreek was out because his price was still so high. Waddle was a guy that was legitimately like, you should have benched him in your regular season-long leagues. I haven't played him in Scott Fishbowl since week 2. Exactly. So he was just off the radar. So I think there's. Do you want to wait and see how it shakes out because you trust Tyreek and A-Chain more? Yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, I think that's potentially worth the risk. This Cardinals defense has been awful against the pass.
Yeah, they're real bad. Mm-hmm. And they're not great against the run either, Joe. So I mean, it's
fair.
I mean, Waddle is the evergreen leverage play, right? I mean, he always is when.
What's his price, Kev? Is he 55, 54? I thought he was really low too.
54.
Yeah.
I mean, that's plenty reasonable. You're talking, he's in the middle where like Josh Downs and Dontavian Wicks, like
with Anthony Richardson.
That's bargain basement stuff for, you know, usually you're paying 6,700, 6,800 for Jalen Waddle, and you would be fine with that price. Now, the fact that you're slashing that by almost 20%, like they're all going to be in play. Yeah. Even Jonnu Smith, because look, Jonnu Smith, I think we're seeing start a bit of a shift in how he's being used, where he's been splitting snaps with Julian Hill and Durham Smythe. And even those guys were running routes for whatever reason.
He got Arthur Smith by a non-Arthur Smith. How about that?
Right. But the fact, all right, so here are his routes per drop back the last 5 weeks before the bye for Jonnu Smith. 36%, 69%, 44%, 43%, 58%. After the bye, 81%. So they're cutting the routes out of Julian Hill. They're cutting the routes out of Durham Smythe and saying, you know what, Jonnu, you're just going to be like the guy we want running routes, which is honestly how it should be. And now you get Tua, and now you get the offense, the upgrade in offensive environment. I think Jonnu Smith is a very, very good play. And I can't imagine him being that expensive even after having the game that he had. I mean, he could probably be like 32, 33, 3,600. That's plenty reasonable.
And how dare you guys doubt my Janu Smith love last week?
No,
Both of y'all gave me a look like you did. Kevin, you haven't been with us long enough. Joe, I think sometimes forgets. My specialty, these cheap tight ends. If I say I have a feeling about a guy, just go ahead and put him in your. I wish I would listen to myself more because even I don't go all in on them because they're so crazy. But I did, like, even though he had ran like 19 routes a week before, I was like, yeah, I like him. And even I was shocked to look up. He had 9 for 96. It's like, what is going on? Can we say tight ends are back? Because there's so many good tight end plays this week. I feel like in values, it's unbelievable.
We should not, just because every time we say it, that's
fair.
They're back adjacent. We still need more precincts.
Jamie, don't mess with me right now. Do not toy with my heart, Jamie. Like, I know that you are a little bit of a king of sarcasm. And I need to know, is it really nice? Because we need to send Stacy, some flowers if it's National Tight End Day, because nobody loves tight ends more than Stacy Perez. Because, I mean, like, seriously, you got Njoku at, 5,100? To me, Ingram at 5,000 is an unbelievable value because that's like Green Bay's, in my opinion, one real kind of weakness in the secondary is tight ends can get off against them. I mean, there's actually like a lot of like Ertz is not a bad play with Mariota. We saw how much he was targeted last week. There's just Kyle Pitts against Tampa, his best opponent, Cade Otton.
Tucker Kraft is fine.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like for the first time in forever, I'm like, man, I like a lot of tight ends more than I do like most receivers.
If you want to go full slappy,
yes, let's go full slappy.
Taysom Hill, baby.
Oh, God.
Wow.
The best quarterback on the team, baby.
That is very true. Oh, here we go. He's saying it's an NFL celebration. So this is a real thing. I am now officially jacked.
It is.
George Kittle, good for him, man. Jamie, we need to, let's go to the bars and just tell every stranger we see, are you celebrating National Tight End Day as well? They'll be like, what? All right, let's just get into the slate. You want to bring it up?
Yeah.
QBs are kind of gross. Can I just say that this week? There's some that I like, but overall, it's kind of like last week where there's like 4 guys that I'm like, yes. And everybody else, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Can we just real quickly, how great is this version of Lamar right now? Like, seriously, I went back and looked. 15 touchdowns his last 5 games. He is top 5 in passing yards and touchdowns despite 14th in pass attempts. He is right now being protected at the 32nd best rate among QBs. And he's doing this. I mean, I know Derrick Henry obviously is a big factor, but like, I think they're the Super Bowl favorites right now. I think their offense with Henry, the issues we've seen in the playoffs are not going to be the same as we've seen before. As long as Henry's healthy and you have him and Lamar in that backfield, I mean, hell, even Rashad Bateman is starting to look like the guy that a lot of us thought he was coming out of college. Like, I mean, how much better can he get? Because right now, even at 8K, he's busting over that number every week. I think he's averaging 29 his last 5. It's not a bad play in cash or MME.
I mean, with the Ravens, you fall into the trap of, did they get out so far ahead that they're, it's Derrick Henry, and then you're getting 20 pass attempts from Lamar, which is definitely possible. Like, that's the risk you get. But, does Lamar do enough when the game is still in question, or at least when it's 2 possession, and then once it starts getting over that, does he do enough to get you there? And, sometimes, 20, 25 points, it doesn't get you there. You need that ceiling outcome from a guy like that if you're going to pay 8K. So that's where I have some pushback. There's no doubt that Lamar can break a slate on any given week. But against this Cleveland team, which, let's face it, they're like 2 games away from packing it up. They're going to have to really
go back to Baltimore. Is that what you're saying?
They might. We might be rehashing this again. Like, Art Modell might have to like Undertaker from the grave and move this team again. But no, it's really tough to see like how Lamar Jackson gets there if they're not being pushed by maybe Jameis Winston pushes.
Well, that's what I was saying. Ravens secondary is not
right. That would be the hope. Yeah.
And I think that, the quicker Cleveland just gets into Chuck mode, which with Winston, I know they were down a ton, but he threw it 11 times on his one drive. By the way, his touchdown on his one offensive possession at the end of the game, he now has 1/6 of the touchdowns on offense that the Cleveland Browns have had all season. So better times ahead. Like I really seriously, I think the Browns are going to score points because you got Nick Chubb. I think you're going to see, Tillman and obviously Njoku involved. Hell, even Jerry Jeudy actually looked decent, believe it or not, on the one possession. He again threw it 11 times, 3 times to Tillman, 3 times to Njoku, 3 times to Jeudy. I think that all 3 of those guys are going to get a bunch of volume. Again, the guy that's interesting to me, because you said, Lamar, and it's a very fair point. Do you then look at either Allen or Hurts, who we still get the rushing upside, but they are facing teams that we're way more confident are going to score points against them? Like, do you like either of those, or do you go further down? Because to me, Love is obviously intriguing, but how long can he continue throwing 3-4 touchdowns every game? Maybe to the end of time. I know Kevin wants that. But to me, it does get risky at some point. Also, you can run on the Jags. Maybe it's a Jacobs game. Where are you guys kind of in that? Let's just say from Baker up.
Baker up.
6,700 and up.
Okay. I mean, I still like Jordan Love just because the Jags are that bad, but I don't know that he's going to really factor into a lot of my DFS plays just because, I mean, anytime you see that 30-second, my assumption is we're going to see
good.
relative, well, good, but that, everyone sees that.
Oh, yeah, I got you saying. Ownership.
Worries about, ownership. And then the other concern, it's the same thing that you have with Lamar, where you just go, Jags have been pretty fucking bad this year. Is this over in the first half, and then it becomes a Josh Jacobs type game, or even an Emmanuel Wilson? So that would be my concern there. Probably my favorite guy in this range might just be Burrow, who I know the Bengals never seem to be quite hitting the stride that we're hoping they're going to hit. But, I think there's a decent chance that turns into a shootout, although I guess, the Bengals have had some weird games recently where you think it's going to be a shootout, and then it turns out it's like 20-10. But Burrow is probably my favorite of these guys, just because I feel confident that game stays competitive. And I don't know. I don't totally trust Jalen Hurts right now at that price range. So in that game, my read is Burrow.
Yeah, it's tough with the Eagles because the Eagles tend to just play down to whoever they're playing. And
right.
At least it's a game where Giants. Right, yeah, right, exactly. I mean, they just flat out, they were double parked. They just wanted to get out of Dodge at that point. But no, so my favorite quarterback isn't even on this part of the sheet. Actually.
No, I agree. That's why I was trying to get through. It's I like the guys. To me, it's either you play again, Lamar, I do think that game's going to be a sneaky shootout. I think he's not going to be as high owned because of the 7th. And do you have projected ownership, Kev? I'm just curious. What is his ownership this week?
For who now?
Lamar.
Projected ownership 6%, which that's pretty low. I can see that coming up. There's a couple. He's 5th among quarterbacks that I've got, but I could see that shooting up because Lamar is just a fun, easy click.
That's true.
Let me ask you this then: is your guy? Because I can't believe I'm saying this. One of my favorites is on the Denver Broncos. How did we get to that point in 2024?
He is not actually. He is opposing one of the quarterbacks we just talked about. It's Trevor Lawrence, actually.
Oh, T-Law.
Yeah. Okay. I do like Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars on offense have been playing a lot better. We know this offense. There's 2 guys that this offense is flowing through. Brian Thomas, Evan Ingram. Green Bay has had issues with defending tight ends. I mean, I know Jair Alexander can maybe take a little bit of Brian Thomas away, but I do think Brian Thomas can find a way to produce, especially, I mean, I do like this game as far as Jacksonville pushing Green Bay to where that game can be like a 34-28 kind of game where we know that Jacksonville is a pass funnel, like completely. They're actually pretty good against the run. They're 12th in EPA, defensive EPA per rush attempt. That's why I don't think it's a great Josh Jacobs game unless you get volume and you are just
right. It has to be that blowout situation.
Right. It has to be that. And you're just hoping he falls in because otherwise it's 21 for 71 and like a catch for 2 yards. Like, and that helps nobody for Jacobs. So I definitely like the passing end of that. And I do like Trevor Lawrence and how aggressive they are. That's the one thing that I do like about Trevor Lawrence is that he is very aggressive with pushing the ball and getting the ball out where, and that's why I love playing him with like Evan Engram because you got to figure it. Even if Jacksonville is down, they will just give you the middle of the field. And that's like Evan Engram's bread and butter where you give them those 5-6 yard ADOT catches in the middle of the field and they'll take it. It's like one of those, all right, well, they're not giving us anything on the outside. So here you go, Christian Kirk. Here you go, Evan Engram.
Can I make you feel even better?
Ooh.
You're talking me maybe into a double stack. Your boys, they run single high at 55% of the time. Brian Thomas Jr. versus that defense, 23% target share over 3 yards per route run, 26% first read share. That is a pretty cheap little double stack there, Kev. You have got me intrigued. I do want to talk about Bo Nix for a minute. Again, I did not expect to be here, but all of a sudden,
it's like the freeze frame. Like you're probably wondering how we ended up here.
Exactly. I've always wanted to do that too. Like it's such a cheesy way for movies, but I still love it. I mean, again, Bo Nix, is he a good NFL quarterback? No, he's not. But he has that rushing upside that just, to me, it is so freaking important these days because his floor is very safe. We know Carolina is the worst defense on God's green earth. Like the only reason they're not worse against the pass is because teams really have a hard time deciding, do we want to run? Do we want to throw? Do we want to throw to receivers, tight ends? Like it's just everywhere. It's nothing but green across. And again, he's almost 7 carries per game. He's getting almost 2 carries in the red zone per. Kevin broke my brain. I think it was Tuesday when he said that he has 2 20-point performances in his last 3 games. It's been since week 12 of last year since Patrick Mahomes has done that, Joe Matz. Yikes. And you're getting this guy for what? 50, what is he, 600?
56, yeah.
With obviously the awful news about Josh Reynolds, but it also gives you an opportunity to then, Franklin is almost assuredly going to be at worst his number 2 target. He's 4,100. So now you're talking about a stack for under 10K. I really do like Nix. And even if you want to run Nix naked, I don't hate that either, again, because of the rushing upside, or even if you want to pair him with Javonte Williams, who has an unbelievable matchup because, again, Carolina's so bad versus the run, and he catches a lot of passes. There's just a lot of options with him, and he frees up a ton of salary.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that. Like the combinatorial ownership of Bo Nix and Javonte Williams is probably going to be like rock bottom low. Nobody is going to play those two together.
You've got me thinking that way a lot now. And actually, Dave, it was so funny. You mentioned that, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. And then Dave Eddy said the same thing to me about how it's an easy way to pivot off of even a very popular, say, quarterback or running back, as it's rare, right, for somebody to think, well, I'm going to play both of them. Right. And sometimes in matchups versus an awful defense like Carolina, it's actually pretty smart, because if they score 40 plus points, you're pretty much getting it probably no matter where it's coming from. I'm also interested in Caleb Williams. Like, I would be more intrigued if Daniels was playing, because I have a lot of the same concerns that we're talking about with Lamar. Like, can this Commanders team keep up with Chicago? Because I don't think the Commanders defense is good, but he's another one that just like the rushing is kind of shocking. Like, I knew he could run, but 150 yards since week 2, 90 in the last 2 games. He's doing it on design runs. Like, I watched the London game. They actually had quite a few plays that were design run plays for Caleb Williams. And then, with Keenan Allen and just they're getting healthy. Swift's actually running to where defenses are having to respect that as well. And he's looked like the number 1 pick the last few weeks. And, I know it was against Carolina, but Washington did score 40 without Jaden Daniels. Marcus Mariota is not a good quarterback. I watched him in Atlanta. But early in the season, before defenses kind of figured out what you were doing, because he can run and do this other stuff, you can scheme up, an offense that can score points. So I'm not quite as concerned about, them getting up and it being a situation where he's not throwing a lot. And also just think that if you're Chicago and Caleb Williams, look, here we go. Just like with Trump, Daniels is no show in the debate, right? He's not going to show up and you're going to run up the scoreboard and rub it in his face. I would, but I'm a petty person. So.
I'm all the way there on Caleb Williams for me, even though what I love about this matchup is it's a real, like, let's find out what is real matchup.
Yeah.
Because we have Caleb where, the first month is kind of rough. I mean, ultimately, fantasy-wise, that Colts game turns out pretty well. But there's, a lot of – even that wasn't pretty while it was happening. And then the last 2 weeks that he plays, they had the bye week last week, he looks awesome. But, yeah, it's Carolina, it's Jacksonville. It's maybe the 2 worst pass defenses in the NFL. And then Washington is doing the same thing where that defense – first 3 weeks, 9 touchdowns, no picks. We're like, hell yeah, we're feasting on them this entire season. Last month, 3 touchdowns to 3 picks. That's over 4 games. But the key thing for me is 2 of those games are against the Browns and the Panthers.
Thank you.
And then overall, you look at that DK number, what is it, 19th against quarterbacks?
Changes when you think about Watson, Dalton.
And only the Dolphins have faced fewer pass attempts this season.
Yeah.
Washington's averaging 27 pass attempts per game against them. So to me, yeah, I would obviously be more hyped. And, I guess there's still the outside chance that we do see Daniels. But I like Caleb either way. I mean, I think, maybe there's some argument that if Daniels plays, maybe Caleb ends up pressing because he wants to impress people. But the reality is, if you think he is good, if you think this was a guy worth the number 1 pick, you want him in games where he's going to have extra motivation.
Do either of y'all think there's any chance Daniels plays? Like, seriously, I don't.
I would be pretty surprised, but
I would be too.
I mean, the comments were like, basically, I don't know. They needed like a sign from God to play him because they were going to make sure, and rightfully so. They're right now in the 2 seed. Like, we were talking about this Tuesday. The 3 best teams in the NFC are on the same division. Only one of them can get that 1 seed, and then best case, the rest of them are 5. So,
right.
I would have to think that they're like, oh wow, he's way beyond where we thought he would be physically. Because if you have any doubts, don't do it. Obviously, it's different ownership. It's long enough that I don't even know if anyone's there who was there when RG3 was.
And Dan Quinn is a player's guy too, where it's possible. Like if Jade Daniels got that dog at him, he could totally just force the hand and be like, "Screw it, I'm playing." But that's he's also in his 6th start as a quarterback.
It's not the defense that
5
I
seasons
would want
from now,
him
maybe he can pull
banged
that
up against either. Like, Chicago's a pretty good defense who can get to the quarterback, which is what
this is not the defense that I want to.
But he's also changed the culture of that team too, where
that's fair.
Maybe we start deferring to that guy.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do like about the Bears, and I'm actually kind of shocked about, is that the fact that they've been 4 out of the 6 weeks positive pass rate over expected, which I did not did not see coming.
I didn't either. Wow.
Right. Yeah, we're not going to see 27 pass attempts in this game.
No, but we're at least going to be seeing pass attempts, probably more than in better situations, in more advantageous situations than calling, a third down draw play at like 3rd and 11, that people just love to see. I mean, or like an easy first down, like in years past, the Jordan Howard 1st and 10 run was like 97% likely. We aren't going to see that, but at least the Bears are, passing the ball a bit more than I thought that they would with DeAndre Swift. We've always known the Bears to be kind of like a more conservative run offense. And they've got, Todd Downing. By the way, I believe that was John Carlos Stanton just hit a 2-run homer to put him up.
Dude, he is becoming Mr. October all of a sudden. What is up, dude?
I just saw that out of the corner of my eye. I saw it. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Bill Simmons was talking about that like of all the people you would expect, because like him and Judge like basically flip-flop, right? Like Judge is the guy in the regular season, and then the way it's been, like all of a sudden Stanton is like back to being the guy they traded for 4 or 5 years ago.
For real. But yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of Caleb Williams this week. Like just looking at some of these other quarterbacks like in that range, like I look at Anthony Richardson and I'm always like, yeah, that could work. And then, the smart part of my brain is like, no, Kevin, like there are a much better plays to make than forcing the square peg into the round hole that is Anthony Richardson in your DraftKings lineup.
Any other QB plays? And for me, that's really about it. Like that's the guys I'm looking at, and it's like y'all just basically talk Lawrence into a bunch of lines. I didn't realize he's 56. Like that's like with I really do. I like that because you can double stack him. I think they're going to be down and throwing, but other than that, for me, it's like basically like I said, Lamar. I do like obviously Knicks, Caleb, and then now T-Law is going to be in lineups.
Is there any Jameis temptation?
There is. He was one guy I was going to say. I mean,
what's his ownership, Kev? Because that's what I was worried about. Is I figured that a lot of people would be going there.
Right now, like 3.5%.
Really?
I feel like people are going to be scared off enough just by how bad the Browns have been.
Well, then yes,
it's been a while since anyone's seen Jameis for an extended period. So
right,
5,200,
21 when he had those 6 starts with the Saints.
Yeah,
because it was 2020, right? That he did the 30-30, or was that 2019? Might have been 19.
That was no, that wasn't pandemic. It was 19 because I remember watching that. It was like week 16 or 17. That game against the Texans where he threw like 4 interceptions in the first quarter. When I started him in the fantasy playoffs, like I will never forget that.
Oh man. So yeah, I definitely, because again, when we can talk about these guys with receivers, tight ends, I like Tillman this week. I love Njoku, obviously. And I am somebody that's like, if you're going to play, like to me, if you're going to go in on Winston, you should go all in and play all 3 pass catchers. You play Njoku, you play Tillman, and you play Judy. And it's going to save so much money then that you just load up everywhere else. And you're going to be different from just having Jameis and 3 Browns pass catchers, I can guarantee you. But I mean, they're dirt cheap. Like if you're talking about Tillman, Judy, Njoku, I think you can get all 3 of them for under $10K. So,
and I think that helps actually with this slate, knowing that we have a 13-game main slate where there's no buys, where the player pool is going to be spread out a lot more than typical. So that could probably get you there, but you're going to have to score 210 points to almost
it's going to be the big, one of the big boys.
It's going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, for sure. All right, RBs then. Man, so many juicy matchups. I hate that. It seems like they finally figured out Kenneth Walker's really good because boy, that price is rough.
Well, he took you 8 weeks, but hey.
But they figured it out. Mixon to me is still being extremely disrespected at
Mixon's the best play. I'm
70,
sorry.
Yeah, right. Like,
and it hurts me as a guy that has been railing on Joe Mixon for the past half decade.
Until he doesn't score 29 points, like, what are we doing here? That was my whole thesis to him last week. Was like, he just keeps scoring 29 points. He technically scored 0.1 points less than what he had in the previous ones, but I mean, it's outrageous.
It's the easiest flow chart in the world.
Right. Yeah.
Are you playing the Indianapolis Colts? Okay, then put him.
And has CJ Stroud looked particularly great throwing without Nico Collins? Not really.
I guess I'm watching the Bears because when the Bears played the Colts, they freaking passed the ball.
Oh, they did. They lost that game, right? Was that
they did lose that game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which boy, they're going to need that.
That was the height of my anti Shane Waldron agenda, and then he's been moderately competent ever since.
He'll disappoint us again.
Maybe he learned his lesson, but then maybe he
it's
didn't.
Possible. I mean, yeah, I think the whole design of that team has been better. They've figured out, don't give Swift anything where he has to read the linemen and stuff. Just point him in a direction. Let him go.
Read, Joe.
Only put Khalil Herbert on kneel downs at the end of the game.
Right.
So they released Felix Jones, by the way, too. That experiment is run its course. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Is anybody talking to Britt Flynn? Is he okay? Isn't he another Arkansas back or no?
No, Felix was Tennessee.
Oh, okay. I'm getting
that sounds the 24-year-old rookie from Tennessee. Yeah.
He did not go on a Mormon mission. So I mean, he is a true 27-year-old ARP veteran.
Don't draft old guys. Sorry.
Unless their name's Henry. So Mixon for sure in the 7K range. If you do that, obviously though, then we got to go down. But I'm okay with that because there's a ton of good plays in the low 6,000. Go ahead, Joe. Yeah, tell us who you are.
I like the Breece Hall play, although I'm guessing ownership might be crazy high on that, considering he's a little bit lower than these other guys, and the Patriots are quite obviously terrible. But,
God bless Todd. I never thought I'd say this, but sorry. God bless Todd Downing for having the courage that Mike Pence didn't have, and also the courage that Nathaniel Hackett didn't have to actually play your guy like 80% of snaps and not mix in the cute play that is Braylon Allen like every second carry.
I love how everybody was trying to make a RB controversy. It's like, or maybe you could just give your stud running back who thrived off of volume the year before and got better as the game went on the ball. But again, what do we know?
But yeah, two best games of the season the last 2 weeks. He's up to 43 targets on the season, unsurprisingly, first among running backs. Patriots only gave up 93 yards the first 2 games of the year.
Jacksonville ran it 19 straight times last week.
Yeah,
Joe. 19 straight plays.
Over 110 yards just rushing in every single game from week 3 on. They have not had a game where where a running back hasn't scored a touchdown. Texans and Jags, 2 touchdowns each on the ground. Texans also had 1 through the air. So we no longer have to worry about Breece Hall getting subbed out at random times. The Patriots, I mean, I'm hoping Drake May can make this at least a little bit close, but it doesn't really matter because, again, he's number 1 in targets. If it's a close game, he'll be involved. I can't imagine a situation where the Patriots just run away with this. And this is just a plus all-around matchup. This is a bottom 5-6 run defense. This a defense that's bottoming out. Their coach questioning their toughness. It's rough times.
Wait a minute, who's responsible for that, Joe? Typically, who would you say? The coach, right? So it was a little questionable. The coach is calling out the toughness of the team that he is responsible for making tough.
But yeah, let's not forget 2 months ago, Breece Hall was like, all right, after McCaffrey, are you drafting? Like, I think consensus was probably Breece a little bit ahead of Bijan.
Oh, for sure. For me, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was doing it with Zach Wilson last year, for God's sakes.
Like, we've seen it with Breece. Bijan was still, hopes and dreams and butterflies with him.
So yeah, we have the guy who was the number 2 running back in every draft or most drafts. He's coming off back-to-back weeks where he scored at least 24 points, facing a team that's giving up at least 110 yards and a touchdown to everyone over the last month and a half. And he's the 8th most expensive running back. So
Damn you, Joe, and your damn logic. Get the hell out of here.
Ownership comes out and it's like everyone's on this, I'm gonna be throwing him in a lot. Cash games for sure. He's going in. Like,
what about Dobbins then? For all the stuff we just made, New Orleans the last few weeks is also throwing up the white flag. I don't think Dobbins will be owned.
While we're on the Briefs thing, I just wanted to throw this in real quick. What do you guys think the projected ownership of Breece Hall is going to be this week? I'm gonna let you know right now. From what I have, he's the number one with a bullet. As far
30%?
That's what I was concerned about.
Oh my God,
higher. 37% right now.
Wow.
As he should be. So
he should be. 100% he should be.
To me, that means you better play him in cash because it's one of those deals that you try to beat him, those lineups elsewhere because Joe just made a great automatic case. It's more than likely he's going to go off. And if you don't have him, you're already starting behind the 8 ball. Mm-hmm. Again, seriously, real quick, Dobbins is what? $400 cheaper. I think he's going to be low owned because of the recent performances. And I mean, again, I watched the New Orleans Tampa Bay game. I don't know what happened to the Saints defense, but they just flat out don't want to tackle anybody right now. Like if it was friggin', whether it was, and those were both backups is what was so insane. Like neither one of those guys had played a ton of snaps, and Tucker and Irving looked like friggin' Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson out there. So, and the Chargers have a pretty good offensive line, right? Like it's back healthy, correct? I believe, don't they have both their tackles back or no?
Well, Slater and Alt, I mean, I would assume so.
I know that. I think Slater missed a couple maybe, or maybe I'm, again, stoned and getting confused. All is entirely possible. But I mean, we don't have to really speak because the guys I want to start with is basically from Kareem Hunt down to who's the one I really like? Oh, Javonte Williams. There's like 5 backs that I would gladly play. Think they're great matchups. But we talked about this before. A-Chain's the one to me that, I mean, again, this is PPR. If this was FanDuel, maybe I would say that you could make a case and convince me another running back. But in a PPR, when he caught 7 passes for 70 yards in the only full game that Tua played, and the team only scored 20 points that day, and Tyreek and Waddle both had 100 yards in that game, by the way. So, like, there's enough to feed everybody when Tua's playing. To me, that's a smash play. And then the question is, do you want to get like a third guy in? Because I like James Conner this week. Kareem Hunt, you can talk me into Tank Bigsby if they can stay in it with Green Bay. Like, I mean, again, Javonte Williams was Carolina. But to me, it's A-Chain, right? Is like him and either Breece or Mixon are like the 3 guys that just, you got to have at least one of those guys, probably 2 in my opinion, especially with like the receiver slate is kind of yucky.
I would put Kareem Hunt in that group too against the Raiders at 6,300. I think that's a good price for 20 plus carries. In a game, you got to figure that Casey is going to just absolutely dominate. I don't think with Gardner Minshew, I don't think that game gets close. I think we're going to see some passing in the first half. I think Kareem Hunt salts that game away, and they've been pretty much de-emphasizing Samaje Perine and Carson Steele as far as the running backs, where Hunt's been taking a lot of that work.
49 carries the last 2 games that he's played.
So, yeah, to y'all's point, they're now 6th in team runs per game. He is up to 8th in expected fantasy points per game, which that is kind of shocking. What is he, 3 weeks in? And I wanted to see, I know his opportunity share has got to be like huge among backs. So, I mean, I like that. Last week I was on him. He didn't even really have the most effective day, but I mean, from a fantasy perspective, again, gangbusters. And what is it? The other thing I want to see was his red zone touches have been outrageous. Cause I know he had 4 the week before. What did he end up with last week?
Yeah. Like who else you give him the ball
to? Seven more last week. He's got 11 red zone touches the last 2 weeks. So Kev, 1,000% in agreement with you there. That is a great call on Kareem.
I will say also, you mentioned Bigsby. I've stayed away from him like big time because we've seen a lot of the splits with Tank. Like when they get game scripted out, Bigsby is on a milk carton. It is Dearness Johnson taking a lot of the pass catching stuff, and he'll get enough run on the ground too to actually be moderately relevant. So Bigsby, I think we're seeing. I don't want to call him like full on Baltimore J.K. Dobbins, but as far as like the splits go, it's pretty close.
I would be interested in him though if his ownership is low as a, like basically a punt play where that game ends up being sneaky close, right? And they just run the ball, which we know that Attell's oldest time. If you really want to beat Green Bay, that's the easiest way to do it because they'd love to get in a shootout with you, especially with their secondary. Like they want you throwing right now. Those guys pick off, it seems like 1 out of every 4 passes. Yeah. Again, am I crazy to like Javonte? I've been hurt by him so many times before, guys.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No, to me, A-Chain, Hunt, and Williams are the 3 guys are going to be rotating in through my lineups for at this
rock
price
solid. 6K against Carolina at home.
It's Carolina. That's all you need. It's Carolina.
Right. Like, okay, how do they get 26 points? It's going to be like 26-0. How did they get their 26 points? I would say 2 of those touchdowns probably come from Javonte and probably
again when we end up doing the Knicks Javonte, I hope they're passing touchdowns to Javonte, which is very plausible because again, Carolina.
And then Knicks can reel off 70 yards rushing too, and he'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yep, no, for sure. All right. So any like cheap guys you want to talk about, or is that pretty much it? And you're good to move to receivers.
Were you mentioning James Conner before? Because I do.
Yes, I do like James Conner a lot this week. Buffalo is really bad versus the run, and he seems to either be boom or bust, right? Like it's either like a 25-point game or a crappy one. And I don't trust Arizona's offense at the moment, but I do trust James Conner, who at his age is first in juke rate and evading tackles. How is this real life?
Pretty good.
And Buffalo is bad against the run. So
they're on the other side, Miami. If you're gonna play Miami,
I'm sorry, thank you.
Yeah. If you're playing the Miami side, like if you're playing that, like Conner, I feel more comfortable with that bring back versus even McBride, even Kyler, even the passing side of that, because that's just been so inconsistent. But Conner has been like the antithesis of like anything in the passing game where you can at least set your watch to what James Conner can do. And then
Miami has also defensively been way better against the pass. Not even just like because they've been losing games. Like DVOA, they are 13th against the pass and 30th against the run.
Oh, I didn't know it was that high.
Run funnel, baby.
So do you think Miami would still run it? Because that's a little bit of. Do you think Miami would still having Tua back? A defense that's obviously not good. You want to fucking kind of get the good juices flowing to where even if they're up, they kind of keep the pedal to the metal. Or was there any concerns with that? I mean, obviously that's good for A-Chain and potentially
my guess for Miami offensively is if they can get out to a lead, I think you're running the ball as much as possible.
Okay.
You
don't want to get too hurt.
That makes sense. That would be my assumption for them offensively. Obviously, the Cardinals keep pace. Doesn't matter. He's going to have to do what he's got to do. But that would be my main concern on the passing side for Miami.
Yeah, I think the way that game fails is like if Conner just runs and he's competent at it and keeping them off the field, like the total plays in that game could really get bogged down to where, we know Miami's been efficient, when they have everybody healthy, but you're really you have to expect that in the first game back with Tua and, those weapons. Like, I think you're asking a little too much to where that is how that game fails. If you're talking about the most, locked in players in that slate, you're talking about HN, you're talking about Conner, at some push comes to shove, you're probably talking like 100 plays, which the average between two teams is like around 120 plays per game. So if you're starting to get really into like the 100, 105, you're just not generating enough opportunity for either of the offenses to get there outside of the run game, that's where you start to get into those like boring 19-14 games. But the
and
backs
A-Chain
get
has
there,
much
but...
more value in that, right? Because visibility,
Oh yeah,
the
100%.
passing and the big plays, etc.
Right, you're not getting the double. You're not getting the 11 target, 10 target games out of Tyreek.
Right. So maybe that would mean that instead of being like all in on Tyreek, even if you like that game, maybe mix in Waddle, who's so much cheaper, and then that way it doesn't like burn you.
Or Mike McDaniels just rubs our face in the dirt and says, "Fuck you guys, we're just."
You're getting Raheem Mostert, 2023 season. I still can't believe that dude scored 21 touchdowns last year. That's unbelievable.
Got it for $3 last year in Kings Classic.
Did you really?
$3 American style dollars.
I bet you laughed your way all the way to the back. Did they make a $3 bill for you with
they
you
did
and
not
Mostert shaking hands on it?
They did not, but there's one other running back that I don't want to be. This is on record. This is on stream. This isn't public. But I don't want I want this to be like redacted, kind of.
Yeah, I'm down for it.
Rashad White with Bucky Irving possibly hampered by his injury.
And then you throw in how many receptions those guys had this last week. You got the receivers all banged up. That's always really been the best part of his game is receiving.
Is there any chance then that we see a lot of Tucker then too? Like, what is his cost this week?
Probably 45, 52. Like, that's still a lot. Like,
you're right. No, I'm with you. That's more than I thought he was gonna be in like the low 4K range.
Like, what did I just say on the Optimus stream, Keith? That he was fancy JD McKissick, but that's what you want out of like Rashad White. You want 7-8 targets. You want 50 yards and a touchdown to go with that, and that's like some of the best floor that you can find in a DraftKings lineup. So,
and what a good defense to be facing. When you need that, because as I tried to warn everybody, and we saw versus the Seahawks last week, this Falcons defense, it's not good. When you can't pressure the quarterback, it's tough to stop teams. And I think Baker is still going to cook, by the way, even despite all the receivers missing, let's go to the receivers, because let's start there because it's interesting to me.
Let's go there. I feel sick after mentioning Rashad White. I need a palate cleanser.
Bo Nix, Rashad White. What the hell is going on here, Joe? What you going to add to this turd sandwich? The Tampa situation. Let's start there because I know, Joe, that me and Kevin are Jalen McMillan guys. Is that the guy that you think is most likely to go off, or is there another Tampa? Not including Cade Otton. Okay, we'll talk about them tight ends, but just of the receivers. Like, who do you feel most confident in, and who do you think is most likely to go off? Is it the same person or no?
I mean, the hard part for me is I just don't feel confident in anyone.
Okay.
It's you look at because McMillan feels like the guy who should be that guy. They drafted the third round, if I'm remembering right. So that's the guy you expect to at least compete, if not win. That third wide receiver spot. You have expectations for him. Obviously, 1,000 yards receiver last season in college. He's seen a lot of routes. It's really kind of been a back and forth, I guess, with him and Sterling Shepard for that third spot. He's been super unproductive. I think, if I'm remembering right, his PFF grade is in like the low 50s. Actually, the Washington receivers in general have not done well. I think Odunze has the problem of competition, and obviously McMillan's had that too, but just very little has happened. Atlanta's second in the league in zone coverage rate. And so far this year, McMillan has run 82 routes against zone. He has 4 receptions for 36 yards. Like, you're just doing nothing there.
Yeah, but in fairness, when you have Evans and Godwin on the fair with you, he's like the third or fourth read at best.
And then you got to go up against top coverage now.
And Trey Palmer's run 28 fewer routes. He has 1 more reception for 25 more yards. Shepard has pretty much the same stats as McMillan on a similar number of routes. So it's just no one's really been impressive. We've seen Trey Palmer have his moments where he wakes up angry and he scores.
He wakes up angry. The decision's made for me. It's done, so.
It's and I assume someone will do well. I don't think this offense completely falls apart. I think Liam Cunningham's shown pretty good instincts so far with his play calling. Obviously, moving Chris Godwin back to the slot was awesome up until the very end of this last game where he gets hurt.
Because has McMillan played the slot at all? Because won't he probably line up there, and that's where he's like pretty comfortable, or no?
I'm looking at McMillan's rates right now. He's been primarily outside.
Yeah.
If they move him to the slot, I would like him a lot more. Now, does Sterling Shepard end up being the guy who's primarily in the slot?
Oh, that's
maybe he turns out to be the guy who does well.
He's been slot a little more, like last 3 games, 39, 26, 40%. So he's been mixing in a little bit more, but McMillan has been primarily on the outside.
Charlene gets it. I agree. That's the right answer. I feel way more comfortable in Otten than I do in any of those.
And I know I just mentioned, I feel even more confident that Rachaad White is probably Otten. So if
there's a bet to be made on Rachaad White leading the team, especially if Bucky's out, a bet to be made on Rachaad White leading the team in receptions in this game, I would take that bet.
Yeah, that's go play that on Underdog. Right? I'm going to go look at those pick'ems, and I'm probably going to be playing a lot of Rachaad White overs as far as rushing and receptions, because especially if Bucky's out, I think that's a prime spot for him. Where I think Tucker Tucker's the only reason why he's in the spot he's in is because he had a heart condition to where all these teams took him off the draft board. And then he latched out with Tampa.
Man, with the ball, like the first time I really paid attention to that New Orleans game, like he was
awesome. I'm a Syracuse fan. I watched him at Syracuse. Like the dude I called him like a bastardized version of Austin Eckler. Like I thought he's a lot better.
No, I do. I see that.
As far as he's a bigger guy. Like he feels like he should have played in like 2004. Rather than 2000,
like Warren Dunn and those kind of guys, right? Like,
well, not even like a speed guy, just like he feels like those guys with the huge shoulder pads. Like that's just how Sean Tucker like runs the ball, but like a Cadillac Williams a little bit. But Sean Tucker's I think he's a lot better receiver than people give him credit for. But I do think that Tucker definitely has a big play element, and people are writing him off just because it's sight unseen. They don't really know what he has, but he's very, very productive in college. 2,000-yard seasons in his redshirt freshman and third-year sophomore season, double-digit touchdowns. I think he had 30 targets in both of those 2 seasons as well. On bad Syracuse teams, by the way, like not good Syracuse teams.
There's good Syracuse teams?
Well, certainly not after Thursday. That's for damn sure.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not.
I know. I'm just kidding, dude. It's like you want to talk basketball, and that's when I'll shut up. Let's just go to the top of the receivers. Because now y'all are making. Because originally I was going to have a Tampa receiver basically, but now you're making me think that we had mentioned him earlier. Like you take like Franklin, you could take Tim Patrick for the Lions. Like there's some guys in that cheap range that, like I don't feel as strongly as about those guys I did. Obviously Chase, it's a good matchup. I can't pay these. Even AJ Brown's ownership's now projected to be up to like 10%. People finally are like, oh, maybe I should play AJ Brown. So for me, like the first guy I'm looking at is Drake London versus Tampa. He had a monster game versus them. The first one, I believe it was Kevin who said it last week, that he's just like an automatic 18 points right now. Like, I mean, that's basically what London's going to get. And I mean, he's still not outpriced that, right? Like obviously you kind of technically want 21.6 points to 3 times his salary, but it is nice knowing when a guy's in that 7K range and it's just like, well, he's going to get 18 points at least. And this is the best matchup he's because what he scored in the first, he scored a gazillion points in their first matchup, didn't he?
It was something big.
12 targets, 154 and a touch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so 12 receptions,
36 points.
Yeah, that's the first guy
and the bonus,
that I'm like, I really like
the
expensive dudes. Is there anybody you guys are like really in above him, or
look, the top end of wide receiver is actually doesn't feel super great with like looking at like those guys are great. Jamar Chase and Brown.
The price matchup, all that stuff. Yeah,
right. I'm looking at the game environment and how things could shake out. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown feels like that game is going to be over very quickly, where I don't think there's going to be enough target earning there. He's going to have to get there with touchdowns. Chase and Brown, I mean, that could that has a lot of downside to it.
That would be the one for me. Brown's probably the one guy up there I might throw into a lineup.
How man do the Bengals play? Or single high safety, because he is just
a grown-ass man.
They are PFF seventh in man rate, 33% of the time.
So that does make me a little intrigued in AJ, because I mean,
wait. It's actually lower. Sorry.
Okay.
I did my quick search, and I got the Eagles numbers. So
it's because it's confusing to read in there, man. I have to like double check it, especially if it's late at night when I look at the corner receiver matchup article that they have, because I swear it seems like it would be the other way around if you search by teams, but it's not.
I feel like I don't have the number in front of me about like cover one, but that just doesn't seem like what Fangio would be running a lot of. I would think,
especially against AJ Brown.
Like those are two defensive coordinators that I think are smart enough to change things up, where I don't think they're going to leave Jamar Chase or AJ Brown in crazy things. Although I guess there's probably an argument based on the way Jalen Hurts versus Saquon Barkley have both played recently, that you might just decide we're going to stop Saquon and
throw it.
We'll see if Jalen Hurts can beat us. So to me though, if I'm going up there, I'm going up for AJ just because he's been phenomenal in every game he's been in so far. That Bengals defense has for the most part not been great, although they did get healthier the last couple of weeks, and
they shut down the stellar New York Giants offense.
They also played the Giants and the Browns. So I think there's a reasonable case to be made for AJ, but when you can get Drake London for $1,000 less, it's hard to talk yourself into.
Who is Christian Gonzalez covering? Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson? Because I need to know that, because Devontae is the 17th most owned or wide receiver. I mean, he's at I think under 3% projection. He saw 9 targets in the first game. Now, if he's getting a lot of Christian Gonzalez, I don't know if I want that. If you think that he's going to, Garrett Wilson is going to be covered more by Christian Gonzalez, to me, that's very intriguing, because I think that they want to get that Rodgers-Adams connection going. Again, obviously, they targeted him 9 times in the first game with Joey Porter Jr., shadowing him basically the entire game. So that would intrigue me if, we think that Garrett, but I don't know if there's any way how you can figure that out. There's very few teams with those kind of 1-2 receivers.
Yeah, and that's what presents the problem. That's why they went out and got Devontae Adams, was to make you pick your poison to who's Rodgers gonna get to throw to if you're putting your best guy on, whether it's Wilson or Adams. So I just don't like the price. Honestly,
you'd rather play London, right? Like, if
I'd much rather play.
Yes,
yeah. Like, let me scroll down. I'd much rather play. I mean, I'd rather play Wilson. I don't really care price wise. I'd rather save the 400. But yeah, wide receiver is just so weird this week. Like, a lot of the top guys are, obviously Metcalf is doubtful. T. Higgins had a injury.
What happened? A hamstring? Is that what it was, or
quad injury?
Quad.
Yeah.
So let's just start with the guys that you really like. I don't even care if it's price. Just like, who's the guy that's like, I want a lot of that guy this week.
I mean, even in this matchup, I still want Brian Thomas because I believe in the talent.
Too. Yeah, I do too.
Sure.
Like, I just think that how aggressive the Jaguars are, how aggressive Trevor Lawrence is, the fact that the rising trajectory of Thomas in that offense, like he is just like a stone cold alpha. Like, if we're ranking those rookie wide receivers again, and we're trying to put these guys in tiers, I mean, I don't think there's any pushback in, would you put Brian Thomas over Marvin Harrison right now? Because
yes, I would.
I mean, I'm doing that.
Be hard not to, based on what we've seen so far.
Right. So, like, I think
Kyler said again publicly too that it's not my job to get him the ball. Like, that's not, like, I don't like hearing that.
Seems cohesive over there,
right? Yeah. Like,
look, it's Call of Duty's coming out.
That's right. He's got priorities.
You guys are bad. Oh my God. So I'm with you. Like I like Brian Thomas. DJ Moore, where are you guys at? Because this is a great matchup. Number ones have killed Washington, but I'm concerned with, like Keenan Allen being added to the mix. Marcus Mariota probably starting. Is it something where the Bears get up early? But I mean, like, there's a lot of good things. Again, they're bad versus number ones. DJ Moore has had, I believe it's like 8 or more targets in 5 or 6 games. He's been the most targeted wide receiver in every game this season. So, I mean, like, he's going to get the most attempts. It's just like, how many and how much damage can he do with them?
Well, people have that recency bias because he went only 4 for 20 and then went on the bye.
Right.
Other than that, he's been just uber productive in almost every game. So I don't know how you don't like DJ Moore doesn't feel like a great click, but he is. Like, you need to like get your mind out of that kind of mindset where you need to be like using the smart part of your brain and be like, oh, it's DJ Moore against Washington with an ascending Caleb Williams. Like,
what about your boy Jaden Reed? Is it the same key? Because he's coming off right.
Jaden Reed's it's so tough because he's seeing like 75% of his targets like within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage or behind it. He's only seeing like maybe a dozen of his targets 10 yards downfield. Like, wow. It really is like matchup scheme dependent, like how they want to use him, because he is like, I know everybody and their mother wanted to say Jaden Reed is Deebo Samuel. He really is, because how often do you really get to Deebo deep routes? And that's pretty much what we're seeing with Jaden Reed. And we know Jaden Reed's awesome. He's clear and far away the best. Like, if you want a Packers receiver, it's going to be Jaden Reed. That's what makes him tough, though, because, two catches for 10 yards isn't going to do anything for you.
And against a team that like gets killed by zone, that was what confused me, is how good he's been versus zone. And it was weird. And they ran a lot of zone. That's why I was asking you, the Packers expert. I'm definitely gun shy. I just wonder, again, Jacksonville's really bad. I think he'll probably be low owned because people are going to be remembering what happened last week. Joe, what's your wide receiver? You're like, yeah, I want that guy.
Well, I mean, speaking about the Packers and the splits that we get, I mean, like
Hello.
we have always said about all of last year, we would say Ayuk is the guy you play against man.
Yep.
Debo is the guy you play against zone. So far this year, Jaden Reed against man has 8 receiving yards on 46 routes run.
Oh my God.
He is 444 on 140 routes against zone. So he really is. He's finding doing those short routes, finding the holes in the zone, exploiting it, getting that yak. You go, man, Christian Watson has 62 receiving yards and 27 routes. Dobbs is 74 and 42. They both have touchdowns against man. So they're averaging 0.6 points per fantasy route run.
I think I know where you're going.
So those have been the two high. The other thing I'll throw in, though, is Dontavian Wicks has not been super productive, 16 yards and 29 routes. He's a 38% target share against man.
Dontavian Wicks has everything you want in a wide receiver until his hands get to the ball. He has everything you want. He's getting the first free target share. He's getting everything that you want until the ball gets there.
Johnson. But it's all good except for the hands.
How many drops does he have, Kev? Like, do you know?
It leads the league, right?
He leads the league. He does lead the league. I don't know the exact number. But the thing is, in like this offense, you could set your watch to Romeo Dobbs running the most routes on the team as long as everybody's healthy. Jaden Reed is second. I mean, he's probably not playing much wide, but he's playing every single 11 personnel slot snap, and it's playing a little bit in the backfield. Wicks and Watson are cannibalizing each other as far as routes. Like, it's been no separation between those two, and that's what's going to kill playing both of those guys at 5,300 and 5,200.
Sterling fills you, Kev.
Like, it is not about the talent. I think Wicks is.
No, I agree.
No. I'm just saying. I just think that with Wicks, I would say that arguably he has the most talent of anybody, arguably with Jaden Reed on the team. But it's just there's only the football can only go so many ways. There's only so many spots you can put a player. They're not going to be running 4 wide receivers like the Cardinals do.
You want me to give you a little counter here, Kev? Because I just looked it up. I knew it was going to be close. You know who actually leads the NFL in drops? Malik Neighbors. But you know what the Giants keep doing?
It's all volume.
Keep throwing it to them. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, there are better alternative options in Green Bay. No disrespect to my guys Wandale and Slayton, but the
guy who's second in targets in the NFL, Joe Matz.
Although I guess if we had Jordan Love instead of Daniel Jones, maybe I would feel a little bit different about some of the receivers on both ends. But
Danny Dimes till I die.
But yeah, because of what Kevin just said about the cannibalizing of routes, that's why I think Dobbs, as much as we sometimes lambast him as the 4th receiver in this group talent-wise, if he's the guy who's going to be out there the most besides Reed, and he's only 5,700, and he's against a team that can't defend the pass to save their lives, he's going to be in a lot of my lineups.
Let me ask you something, though. Is it the Kraft game? Because Kraft, he's pretty good versus man as well, right?
I don't have those numbers, but I believe that is true.
Because I just, the Jags have been torched by a few tight ends this year. I mean, just last week, Hunter Henry had a field.
Hunter Henry,
yeah. Real quick, I want to get this question because Ismail, first of all, thank you for the donation. That goes straight into Get Joe Matz a new Twins hat fund. So we appreciate that. He goes, Mahomes or Tua this week. Ooh, and moving forward, if Tyreek is out, should he play McMillan or Hopkins? He's got London already. I mean, Tua for sure this week, definitely. And I like Tua more than Mahomes the rest of the way. You guys feel the same?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there with that. I mean, better days are ahead for Mahomes. I think Hopkins being there should kind of just it's an upgrade for the offensive environment, knowing they don't have to play. I mean, they put Sky Moore on IR. God bless his soul.
But it feels like they made a decision that they know the strength of their team is defense, and they just don't want to like lose games on offense, right? You know what I'm saying? Like they want to control the clock and let the strength of their team take over. It's what the Patriots did. People are like hating on Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's like that's the easiest way for them to win games. Like that's the point of why we're playing football. I know we forget that because it's fantasy this and fantasy that, but last time I checked, they're undefeated. But because of that, I just don't think better days are ahead. I don't see though Mahomes even having a 30-point game this year, honestly. Because what offense is going to put up, a 30 burger on that defense? Like that defense is really good.
Right. Exactly. That's after letting L'Jarius Sneed go to the Titans.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Maybe it depends on what situation your team's in. Because if we're talking about down the stretch, and assuming Kansas City isn't like 14-1, which maybe they will be, and they'll just be resting everyone. I don't know. At some point, I just think this offense starts to kick into gear. And I know last year that didn't really happen until kind of the playoffs actually hit. But I think even if you're Kansas City, you still want to see it in the regular season. You want to hit those high notes to know that, hey, we don't have that's why you traded for Hopkins, is because they are wondering, they're like, hey, we actually need to prove that we've got what we need when we face the Ravens again, who, let's not forget, did toast that defense. So yeah, I still, it's Mahomes, and it's the guy who's one hit away from never playing again. So unless, I guess if you have both, or you have some other great backup, maybe you can ride with Tua. As someone who often runs with one quarterback,
you really want to hold a roster spot for Patrick Mahomes right now? What is he, like QB 20?
He's still Patrick Mahomes. I
think you're still pot committed if you drafted him. I think you still have to.
Yeah, I'm not the guy who cuts Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes becomes Patrick Mahomes again.
Okay.
No,
how is it?
Not me.
So you think that he's going to be throwing all over the place because their defense can't stop? They play the Raiders twice, the Broncos, the Panthers, the Browns, and the Broncos.
These are also teams that people roast across the board. It's not like quarterbacks haven't been productive against Carolina.
But I'm saying they've been proving that they're gonna run it. Like they're not going out there and throw. Like, what's the most passes he's had this year? in a game? 30?
That's a good question.
That's what I'm looking up right now.
I'm not trying to hate. This is not
Patrick
Mahomes is bad. I'm saying for fantasy, which is totally different.
He's hit 39 twice. Now, those are the only 2 games where he hit 30.
And how many points did he score in those games?
17.4 both times.
Whew. That's not a very good return on investment.
I get that. And obviously, you didn't draft Patrick Mahomes, so you could get 16 fantasy points per game. But I also think he's Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to get 16 fantasy points per game for the entire season. I would bet that Patrick Mahomes is a back-end QB1.
I'll take that bet. How much you on bet?
Well, are we talking 10-team or 12, just so we clarify?
We're talking 12.
Okay, then
from week 8 on, Patrick Mahomes is a back-end quarter, so he's
a top 12 fantasy quarterback over that time.
I take that bet. I think he will be.
Yeah. What do you want to put on this?
Pie in the face. So it's either I get a pie in the face or you guys get a dual pie in the face.
Great. Yeah, I'm in.
Works for me.
All right, real quickly, get the rest of the question. We'll do a few more receivers, and then we'll get this thing on the road. He did ask if Tyreek's out, which I just want to tell you, Tyreek has already said, get your guys ready. So, he didn't say he's playing, but he literally told fantasy owners, get ready. We're back, right? The boys are back. So, I think he is playing. But if he's out, I would definitely play Hopkins. You guys have really kind of shifted my opinion because you're right. It's just we don't know, and that's something that I pride myself on. Is there's not a lot of things you can control, but what you can, you should take advantage of. And with the Tampa receiver situation, I would avoid it overall unless you're just desperate, or need a home run, something like that. But anyway, we appreciate you, man. Some receivers I just want to mention real quickly. Rashad Bateman, to me, great play this week. Automatic start if for some reason Zay Flowers is out. It looks like he practiced, I think, in a limited fashion, but at 40, I think he's 4,300.
Yeah,
I think he's a really good value. Same again for Denver Franklin at 4,100. I think that is probably the best value on the board. Again, double-digit points last 2 weeks. I think I put it in the article. And of course, I've already forgot because I wrote it yesterday. But he is already ran in just the last 2 weeks more routes than he did in the first 5 games. So that's obviously a big deal. And other than that, man, I think that if you stay again, because we like those 6K range, you can play a London and a Hill and a lineup, you know what I mean? Or you can actually spend up a little bit at receiver because of the flexibility with the backs and again, tight ends too. There's a lot of good tight ends, in the 4K range.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, if you're into the Tampa receivers, Shepard is 3,800, McMillan's 35, I think it was, or something like that. Where I just saw McMillan. Did I pass by him? They're cheap. So I mean, it's not like you can, you're not spending up on any of those guys. Franklin at 4,100 is a pretty good price too. As you said, Bateman. I'm just scrolling through right now. I mean, Tim Patrick, I guess, with Jameson Williams out. I mean, if you're banking on that, Mason Rudolph keeping up with the Lions, I guess. Devon Veely, that's a cheap PPR scam at 3,400, but you can do worse. There's not bad. Keyshawn Boutte at 3,600, who's running routes, who's not Jalen Polk, who won't see Sauce Gardner. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's also, those Browns wide receivers if you're trying to.
Yeah, Tillman, who we had talked, I'm sorry, we mentioned earlier. He's 30, 30?
33.
Yeah, that to me is my favorite play this week. And I mean, whether cash or I don't really care how long, because he's just such a saver. And I mean, he was another one that he had not played at all. And then all of a sudden, 80% of the snaps, he ran routes on 30 passing plays. And next thing you know, what do you get? 12 targets. And there's an upgrade this week at quarterback, considerable.
Yeah,
and
upgraded quarterback, opposing offense that should put you in a pass-heavy game script. And
they scored 141 points to their last 4 games. Holy shit.
And the 30th defense against wide receivers. So my assumption is at least one of those guys will have a very productive game. And considering the price points, they could end up all hitting the numbers that you would want.
I completely agree.
I'll be messing around with them for sure.
Yeah, on that question, by the way, we did miss a couple. There's a couple trade questions in there. Treylon London for Hopkins for Collins. I'm not doing that. I'm not trading that for
the hamstring thing on top of everything. Like it's 2 for 1, and Collins hamstring. Like those things linger, man. I'd be very leery.
I tried to do a London for Collins trade, but it's a keeper league where it's an auction draft, and the other guy has Collins for like almost $20 cheaper than I have London into the future. But if we're talking regular league, London he's potential top 5 wide receiver this season.
Right. He is like completely on par. Not on par, but not far behind.
In the same stratosphere, and you're giving up an extra
level
player.
right below. Yeah.
4 guys healthy, 4 guys not. The other question, I would do that.
Run to the podium for Connor and Laporta for Kyron. Like, stop what you're doing and go accept that.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. 100. All right, the tight end. On tight end week, I can't wait to text Stacy when we get off this show. Our Lord and Savior, Brock Bowers. I wish I could do it. He's too expensive. I know it's a great matchup. And Minshew.
Now you go play. We're out.
At knowing what you can get, I'm fine with it. I mean, I know there's cheap running backs. I know wide receiver you could pay down. We obviously like mid-tier and a little bit lower quarterbacks.
I just would rather play Njoku Ingram, even if I was going to do 2 tight ends for 5 and 5,100 over Bowers for 6,100.
That's fair. That's certainly fair.
And again, I'm the literally the freaking president. And what is it? I'm not only a member, I'm the owner.
I'm also a client.
There it is, a client of the Brock Bowers fan club. So, but it's just again, there's so many good matchups this week. I love obviously Njoku. We talked about 14 targets, first game without Amari Cooper. That's outrageous. And I think Evan Ingram's got a chance to potentially be a little bit lower owned because people are going to look at that 8.5 points and forget that the Jags ran it 19 consecutive times and he still got 8.5 points. So to me, that shows Ingram's, his floor, even in a game where they're not even throwing it, he almost gets double digits.
God, you would think they'd have Mitch Trubisky a quarterback the way they're
right. Or Desmond Ritter. Charlene wants to know about Kraft. I do like Kraft for MME because I think he'd be different. But again, I just think you're getting so much more volume with an Ingram or a Kincaid, or I'd rather just go play, Otten, who again, I mean, what do we think? Otten's guaranteed 8 to 10 targets with what he's seen the last month or so. And then now without Evans and Godwin.
About that. Yeah. I mean, with Kraft, it's tough because Kraft has to mix in with so many other pass catchers.
Yeah. Right. That's always the question.
Right. It's like the Niners thing where you only have so many footballs to go around. Not everybody can't eat every week. And
it's like they're deciding before the game. They're like, I don't know, playing paper, rock, scissors for, all right, this week is the Jaden Reed week. This week is the Tucker Kraft.
All right, we've had enough squeaky wheel Dobbs games. It's a Wicks week this week.
I mean, for real, that for me, that's kind of the group. Is I love Ingram Njoku. I love obviously Otten. What about when you're getting for some punt ones? Cincinnati has been real bad versus tight ends. Yet another week with Goddard out. Any interest in any of you guys for that one?
Well, I talked Calcaterra up last week, and then he got caught one pass for 5 yards. So
I get that, but
don't love that. But to your point, though, Giants haven't been terrible against tight ends. The Bengals have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see that if you have to save that $300, but it's hard for me unless you're going Otten and then someone cheaper just because you're really spending up somewhere else. I want to find that money to get Otten because I think he's a legitimately good top top 10 tight end play overall, and he's 3,500. Where all these guys below him, they're shots in the dark, at least to some degree. So I would certainly rather find $300.
The other guy I just want to mention is Schultz. This is like the Geno Smith last week. I'm planting the flag. This is the last week he has, probably, because we're assuming Nico's going to be back, right?
Hopefully.
That this is his last week to be one of the top, and he is. He's still getting targeted. It just has not worked out. And like last week, that was not on him. The Texans offense was awful. I think what did Stroud complete like 11 passes for 120 yards. That Packers defense might be
locked them down.
Kind of pretty good. I gotta admit, I'm impressed.
Tank Dell was scoreless, or he didn't even have a catch.
Oh, he didn't have a catch. I didn't know that.
He had that diving. He had a touchdown like gift wrapped, and then in the first quarter, and then nothing else like the rest of the game. Like they locked them down. It was like Diggs 5 for like 27 or something like that, and like that was it.
Wow. So love hearing that. But I think that remember, this is an indie team that just last week, Geno Smith with Snoop Huntley went bananas against. And like I do like Hunter Henry at 3,800 because obviously 20% target rate. With May, he's been tight end, I think 6 and 7 the 2 weeks they've been together. I'm with Joe that it's like I'd rather play K-Dot. Like he's actually cheaper and it's a better matchup.
Yeah.
Right? So, all right, defenses, then we'll get out of here, boys. I know we've been going for a long time. Can you tell me a reason why it just shouldn't automatically be the Bears at 700 versus Marcus Mariota and the Commanders? If that's if Daniels is out, I should say.
Right. If Daniels plays, I like this Bears defense enough that I could maybe be talked into it with Daniels.
Right.
But if it's Mariota, this defense has been one of the top 5 defenses in the league all season. And Mariota did look really good last week, but like you said, we've seen more extensive time with Mariota, and it usually doesn't go well. So yeah, I think that's definitely my favorite. How do you feel about Atlanta against Tampa Bay with no wide receivers?
Not good. Again,
still just out. Okay.
The issue is like we don't get sacks. That's a problem. Like that's the most
pretty big issue.
Like to me, that's what I look for in a defense first is like, can I guarantee they're going to get 6 to 8 points off of sacks? And then we're not really getting turnovers either on top of that. So I don't feel like I'm terrified. This is again such a perfect layup for the Falcons because they can grab control of the division, right? You win this game, you have both wins over Tampa. It's set up perfect for you. Godwin's out, Evans is out, and it's the kind of game that from 35 for whatever you want to call it, years of being a fan, don't feel good about it.
Hear me out. The Seattle Seahawks.
Oh, well, they look different with Murphy, man, for sure. Like that was impressive last week. I'll admit, like they got the quarterback.
They're really the one defense that's below Chicago, where I think this is actually like a solid defense. It's just obviously, you are facing Josh Allen, who now has a number 1 wide receiver, so that's the issue there. But
one and a half.
But yeah, considering it is in Seattle, I think that becomes a much more reasonable play. So if you need the 200, if that's the difference between me playing Kate Otten and playing someone, Calcaterra, then I'll take the 200 away from here and put it there. But yeah, I definitely think it's Chicago number 1, and you go lower because again, Seattle's an okay defense against a good offense. Once you go below them, it's bad defenses against good offenses, and that's just something I don't want a part of.
No,
like the Bears are the Broncos are the only bad offense below that, and they're playing the Panthers, who have been the most useless defense in the NFL. So I don't want to have to do. We tried that earlier in the year, and it didn't
go well. It did not go well, Joe. We were all in on it too. Me and Joe were like, we're smarter than everybody else. We're going to take them. They're 2,300. It's going to allow us to do this, that. Yeah, they got me negative points, so I'm out.
Right, they negative points twice, and another week where they gave us 0. So it's like you're literally just wasting money most weeks with them.
They may be the worst NFL team I've seen in at least a decade.
Oh, they're rough. It's bad across. I mean, again, their best defensive player they just traded for a second round pick and change.
If you have the money, is it one of those weeks is worth to pay up and do Denver because you got Bryce starting, no Deontay Johnson. Is it worth paying the fine?
$1,000.
That's a lot of money
but that's been a really good defense on top of that. And if you look, if I'm not mistaken, it's been when they played bad QBs, they've just killed them. I look at Rattler last week, right? Like what'd they score last week? A ton. I know that.
I mean, the problem for me is like, what are we guessing on average we get if it's Mariota and we're starting the Bears defense?
Well, no, I mean, that's the one that you're again. I'm going to play that for sure. I'm asking that in cash, for instance. You wouldn't be you wouldn't find a way to spend up and do that.
I mean, the thing is, let's say we get 7 points.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kev was about to do it because we're already an hour and a half in. Let's get a lineup going.
I was going to say, do you want to see what we can do with it?
Yeah, let's do it. I like it.
So, do you want to put the Broncos in and then see what we can do around that?
Let's do the defense and the QB running back stack and go from there. Right? That would make sense. No?
You want to go with the Bo Nix Javonte?
Yeah. Are y'all okay with that or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see where it goes. Let's do it.
Otani just hit a double off of Canely.
Is it still 1-0 or 2-0?
I was gonna say, what's the score?
2-1. Oh my God! Really? And then got to third on an error. It's 2-1, 1 out. Bottom of the eighth. Wow. Yankees.
Flying by. Yeah, we need to do this so Kev can watch the rest of this game.
No, yeah.
All right, Joe, we'll give you the first pick in the draft right here. Who you got? You can go anywhere on the board, but think about we're probably going to build from there because we've got a little Denver thing going.
So we got the double Denver.
I'm vetoing any bring back from Carolina.
Oh, me too. Yeah,
I know. I was gonna say it's like I want to have some Carolina thing where if Patrick Surtain didn't exist, I'd be like, hey, let's throw Deontay Johnson and see.
I mean, if you wanted to do that, it'd be Jatavian Sanders, but I still don't want it because supposedly.
You see, by the way, Jatavian Sanders popped up on the injury report with, I believe it's wrist/groin.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wrist/groin.
That is amazing. You're going at it a little too hard.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Dude puts up a 6 for 61, and I guess he had to celebrate somehow. But
my buddy John used to say, you got to go with there's a stranger in the house and change whatever your normal hand is in that situation, and then you won't be hurting your wrist with your groin. But
Scampers tread lightly.
Wait a minute, Scampers is a Dodgers fan, or is he just messing with you?
He's West Coast. He's West Coast.
Okay, cool.
All right, Joe. I just steer into that and become West Coast to represent guy.
No,
give me Drake London. Let's go, Drake London. I think we're all very high on this play. So
yeah, I'm good with that. Is this my pick here?
Yeah, of course. Charlene liked this stranger.
Oh man. After the Drake London pick, I almost want to throw in Rashad White.
I mean, if we're going cheaper than that,
and this is MME. I actually like, right?
That's true.
To me, yeah. Let's get one of those that people are like.
I don't hate it.
You got all these guys in the lineup because we got.
It saves us a little bit money compared to the Kareem Hunt, A. Shane category.
I'm trying to think.
500 there. So,
do we want to go 3? Yeah, I'm going to. Let's throw A. Chain in the flex. I think that you have to. I was trying to decide if we want to do Tyreek, but I think we do. A-Chain in the flex and a one-off, and then that way, if the game goes bad, like Kevin was talking about, hopefully he can at least salvage it with his pass-catching abilities.
Yeah.
What is our average salary now? 4,800.
48.
We got the defense, which that'll bring that up a little bit. We like Tillman, right?
I was going to say, we also have the Otten play.
Oh, that's right, too.
So there's ways to save money and go big somewhere.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So if we put Otten in there and then throw the
Bears in there, you can get your defense if you really want, but
that's not a priority, Joe. I mean, I was just curious. Let's see now. What is that?
My whole thing, Keith, with that is that they score 7 points. The Bears do on defense. There's been only one game all year where they've scored over 17, so to give us at least a 10-point bump. Right. And I feel like there's other positions where it's so much easier to get a 10-point bump for $1,000. So that's why, even if we have the money, it's like I'd rather find somewhere else to throw it.
So just an FYI, Denver did score 20 last week versus New Orleans.
Right. But that's the only time that they've hit 20 points because it's super
and the
rare.
Commanders scored 16 versus Carolina.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
sorry.
Depending on how your Bryce Young feelings, I think there's a chance he'll be a little less PTSD.
Without Deontay?
But, well, that's true.
That's my concern is like no Deontay, and now you're out there with Coker and Mingo, or did they trade me? No, they traded Marshall, right? Is what you told me, Kev?
Well, they cut Marshall in training camp. Yeah. He's now the Devontae Adams replacement in Vegas. But I did swap out the Bears and put
in the Broncos, see what we can do.
It's it could be 2-2 sack fly. I put in the Broncos, yeah. I was going to say you could do the Bears and like DJ Moore. I don't know how correlated that is.
Let's do the Bears because I mean that's the difference in that's 500 a piece to on those last two. I think that
I do kind of like DJ Moore. Well, do we want to get Brian Thomas in here?
Well, we can do that. I know we can do both of them because Thomas, I believe, is 62, right?
Yeah, I think that'd be 64, 66 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
So you play Thomas as a one-off. You played DJ Moore.
A-Chain's a one-off.
It's like minorly correlated with the defense.
But again, we talked about this is going to be a week that, I don't know, man. You're going to have to get there somehow. I think there's enough correlation because you look at the Atlanta game. Like if that turns into a shootout, that's pretty good. And I think there's a good chance that happens. You got three pieces there. Obviously, you got the Denver, and then you're just hoping that A-Chain and DJ do what they do.
Right. Which like you mentioned earlier, Washington really bad against number ones. 86
Real
yards
bad.
per game. Only I think it's Minnesota and Detroit give up more yards to number one wide receivers. So
I just keep thinking about what Zay Flowers did to him. Who's not even like your traditional number one. And I mean, he just did whatever he wanted that entire game. It was insane. All right. I'm going to let Kevin watch the ninth inning because he's been gracious enough. I feel so bad now thinking that game's on. I forget baseball games now fly by. It's not like the old school days.
That's true. It is a lot faster.
But again, we appreciate all 206 of you that are with us. Ishmael, thanks for the donation. We're going to have to tell Jorge that the rest of the shows are going to have to pick up their game because, we're just getting donations and stuff out here. But enjoy this every week. You guys are the best. For Kev, Joseph, and Keith. We'll see you guys. Good luck. I guess I should probably hit end stream, right? That's my fault. This time.